Welcome everybody to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me Alasdair Mackenzie. Alasdair, it's Milan-Lazio again. This time it's Coppa Italia, and luckily the result is different, but I'm still disappointed. I don't know you.
Yeah, well, judging by this, it means we're going to win the next game 1-0 at least. That'll put us into the final if the form's anything to go by. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. I think it was an improved performance on what we saw on Sunday, particularly in the first half. But yeah, like you say, it's hard to kind of come away from a game like that where we definitely had the opportunities to win it and not have got more from it. But you know what? 0-0, it basically makes the game in Rome the decider, which is not a bad position to be in, to be honest.
Yeah, Lazio was a different team compared to the one that played last Sunday against AC Milan, much better. I don't know if it was because the players were different or because the mindset was different, but it was a better Lazio. I mean, it looks like it was more convinced they could really win. When instead Sunday, I felt they were a little bit not convinced about winning against AC Milan, so maybe that made the difference. But I think we went really close to win this match, but there was something wrong. Milinkovic-Savic didn't play as well as usual. Felipe Anderson's performance was a little bit not convincing. So I think that in the end made the difference. But Lazio played much better than AC Milan today, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of Milan team from the one we came across back in September with the 4-1 win. I mean, you can see from these two games that one thing Gattuso's definitely done is made them more organised. And the first half, Lazio were the only team who were really threatening. I mean, Lazio, to be honest, were the only team really threatening for most of this game. But at the same time, the best chance of the match fell to Milan. And we had to thank, I think it was Çalhanoğlu, for missing an absolute sitter, and that's the only reason we didn't lose this game in the end. But yeah, it's hard to say. I think the team looked a lot better with Ciro Immobile back. That's undoubted. I think just having him up front is a big reference point for the rest of the team. So I found tonight that our attacks, the way we struck, our attacks were a lot more structured than they had been on Sunday, just because the team's more used to playing in a system around having him up front, and they know what to expect from him. Whereas with Caicedo on Sunday, that wasn't the case. And when it's Nani or Anderson in that role, I suppose it's in kind of experimental territory. But yeah, I think it's kind of disappointing. It was obviously good to see Ciro back, but it was a bit disappointing that his partnership with Anderson didn't take off in the way we might have hoped for.
There have been a couple of moments when the two felt playing really well. They were giving the ball fast and creating a lot of problems to Milan defense. But again, I often has this impression with Felipe Anderson that sometimes he goes out of the match with his mind. I don't know. It looks like he's there just because he has to. While if you see Immobile, if you see Nani or the other players, most of them have fire in their eyes, and the only thing they want to is score. While Felipe Anderson is the guy who just wants to have fun, you know. So he has to work on that. But
I think that's maybe a bit harsh to say that he just wants to have fun. I think his work ethic has improved while he's been at Lazio.
Before.
I don't think you want to take that away from him though, and it sounds like a bit of a generalization, but I think that's something that's often quite it can be a unique characteristic of Brazilian players, particularly creative Brazilian players, is that the love of the game. Ronaldinho is obviously the most famous example, but the idea of these guys kind of playing for the enjoyment of playing football and kind of street football culture and so on. And I like to see that aspect in Anderson's game because it's very different from other players on our team. So I wouldn't really criticise him too much for, trying to enjoy himself out there. It's just that he's clearly not got back to the level that we had at least hoped he would get to when we saw him in pre-season.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if it's because he didn't play that much or he lost confidence, but you can see when Luis Alberto came in, the match changed completely. Lazio changed completely. It was much better. So, and I don't believe none of us in August can think about this, right? Thinking Luis Alberto will make Lazio better than Felipe Anderson. I believe no one thought about that.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, he's been a revelation, really. But
yep.
But I know, it wasn't enough tonight in the end. Good to see Nani coming back in, and there's a lot of rotation going on there now, and it's got to the point where I'm starting to wonder, now that Inzaghi's got to a stage where he's got all four of those guys available, is he at risk of over-rotating a bit? I mean, tonight I wouldn't criticise it because Chiro's only just come back, so to take him off with 10 minutes left isn't the worst idea, and to take off Anderson isn't the worst idea either, given that he wasn't having the best game, but he was so consistent in his selection before, with Alberto playing behind Immobile for, I think it was 8 or 9 games in a row he played with that combination. And we did very well during that period as well. So I wonder if his temptation to kind of rotate his options up front could end up being slightly damaging in a way, because you want to be able to kind of give the understanding between the front two time to develop in a way that he won't if he's constantly chopping and changing it.
Yeah, I understand, but the problem is that Lazio's playing every 3 days and it's already 6 months, so Immobile, Luis Alberto are probably not fresh like in September when they could play 7 matches in a row twice every week. So I believe he has to make these changes. Now my question is instead considering that Parolo will have to play, it's not banned, so can play on Monday, why did Parolo play tonight and not Murcia? I'm more concerned about that.
Yeah. That was a surprise. I think the one thing we said on Sunday was that with Lulic and Milinkovic-Savic both being suspended, they were both likely to start tonight. So I was surprised to see Lulic not starting either, because I thought tonight might be quite a good opportunity to play him in the middle. If it wasn't to be Murcia, I expected it would be Lulic in that position. So yeah, it is a bit surprising, to say the least, that Parolo started. But on the other hand, I suppose you could say it shows that Inzaghi is taking this competition seriously. He's not looking at it now that we're at the semi-final stage as an opportunity to rotate and put his B team out there. Obviously, we were out without De Vrij tonight, and Luis Felipe had a chance at the back, and Caceres came in, and Anderson came in, Chiro came back. So I think possibly there were already enough changes to his team with Basta and Lukaku also coming in that he didn't feel comfortable to change something from that midfield three on top of that and try and kind of keep stability in that particular area of the pitch. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, it is a bit disappointing because both of us have been really wanting to see more of Murcia than we have this season, and if he's not going to get opportunities at times like this, then you wonder if he ever will.
Yeah, and again, he's not a sort of mystery. We know what type of player he is, and it's funny that it looks like he had more chances. He played more time last year. That was more a surprise than this year. Now, I didn't count the minutes, but for sure in the league, he played much more last year than this year. So That's a little bit surprising. Don't want to say disappointed, but yeah, it's surprising that this thing. Instead, as you said, Felipe Luis or Luis Felipe, he was a very good surprise today. He played really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like, he was the leader of that defense. People can say, Kalinic is not Messi, but for him, starting after a long time, have to mark different players because you have Kalinic, then you have Cutrone, then you have Colaglo. No? You have different players with different skills, and he adapted very well with all of them. It looks to me that he's fast, but at the same time he's physical, so he can adapt to different players, which, for example, Bastos struggle, etc. And I mean, how much is a coincidence and how much is true that without Bastos, Milan didn't score tonight? Is it only down to that? Or?
It's a bit harsh.
Again, I'm harsh today. Yeah? Okay.
I don't know. I mean, Bastos, he's obviously made too many errors by this point. But I mean, Milan just didn't really threaten too much coming forward in any case tonight. I mean, they were defensively well organised, but I don't think they really managed to, do much with the ball in our side of the pitch. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Felipe Luis, because he was brilliant, I thought. And yeah, one word you mentioned there was his leadership, and I think that's right. That's basically the most impressive thing I find from watching him in recent games he's had the chance to play, is that he just looks a lot more assured and very confident in the middle of that defence now, and that's not an easy thing. That confidence is a thing you need to develop, especially at that age. And I hate to say it, but the more I watch him, the more I feel like I wouldn't be too unhappy if De Vrij was to leave in the summer, for him to be the guy to step in and take his place. He needs more opportunities, and he's not obviously at De Vrij's level yet, but I think with a bit of Inzaghi magic on the coaching ground, he could turn into a very, very good player. So I hope we get to see more of him and he gets more opportunities.
I was thinking the same thing watching the match. Watching Felipe Luis, I was thinking, okay, he's the next De Vrij. And the other good thing that we didn't mention is that he's even talented with the ball. You can see him passing the ball very well, dribble pass. I don't know if it was Kalinic in the first half at a certain point. So he's Brazilian, so probably he has it in his nature, but he's really good with the ball as well. So, he's a sort of defender playmaker that is always very useful, especially when you play with a three-man defense. So I'm really impressed. He's really, really young. Let's not forget about that. Obviously, he can improve. But yeah, I can see it happening. I can see De Vrij leaving, especially because transfer market's closed and he still didn't sign the renewal of contract, or at least they didn't make the announcement. So we don't know if it's going to be another Biglia sort of relationship, or they're going to sign a renewal in the next coming days. But yeah, this time it looks like Lazio has already the sub for De Vrij. It's true he didn't play that much, so we are not 100% sure, but in the last performance he was really convincing.
Yeah, definitely. And I wouldn't want to say yet that if De Vrij goes in the summer that we could put 100% faith in Luis Felipe stepping in and being the number one in that position, but he's definitely got the potential to be considered. And he's another one as well, like many players under Inzaghi, who we just didn't really expect anything from at the start of the season. is a name we weren't really familiar with. So for him to have come in and made any sort of impact in the first team is a bonus, and for him to have actually come in and proved to be capable of playing at this level is really, really quite unexpected. If you're looking at youth players from Lazio from last season who you thought could kick on this season, you'd be probably talking more about your Lombardi or Murgia or Cataldi, these kind of players. But Luis Felipe has actually made far more of an impact than any of them. In terms of the contract situation, nothing more to say really on that, apart from I just really hope it finally gets resolved, because we're talking about it too much.
Shall we start with a couple of questions? Ramel Gendi on the podcast. I was on after the Chievo game. I predicted that Inzaghi will stick with Felipe over Nani. And he asked, the question is, why after two awful performances by Felipe against Milan in games that five at the back, and then there's another question, the five at the back look very good. Cáceres looks like Nesta compared to Wallace and Bastos. Well, if I'm harsh, I don't know what you think about Rami. Felipe's not playing really well. And to be honest, Nani, when he came in today, he didn't convince me as well. He didn't play that as I expected. I know it was very late in the match, but I thought he could do something more. So it's never easy to replace a player like Immobile. He's doing a lot. So, you always hope to find another one who comes in and play as good as Ciro did, which is not very easy. And the defense, I thought Lukaku and Basta didn't play very well. They made a couple of mistakes, especially when they were attacking, not when they were defending. But the three central defenders were great. I think this could be really the starting lineup for Lazio. Cáceres, Felipe Luis, and Radu for next year, especially if De Vrij leaves. Otherwise, I can see Radu on the left, Cáceres on the right, and De Vrij in the middle be the defense Inzaghi will pick up in the most important matches.
I think it was really encouraging. Obviously, it's early days, but it's really encouraging to see Cáceres come into the team and immediately look pretty comfortable in there. Like we were just talking about, I think Felipe Luis was still the standout defender for me, but Cáceres did nothing wrong. And if you're comparing him to Wallace and Bastos, doing nothing wrong is a big tick. That was good.
To be honest,
in terms of Anderson, on you go.
No.
I was just going to say, in terms of that point on Anderson and Nani, I think Inzaghi probably continues to select Anderson because he can see his potential. He knows what kind of a player he can be for this team. And I think we all do. We all know that he has the talent to be able to, turn games on their head, whereas Nani is older for on the one hand, and in my mind hasn't impressed an awful lot more. He's not played that much for Lazio still, but I don't think the time Nani's had on the pitch has been that much higher at a higher level than Anderson to kind of merit him being starting all these games. I think it's a bit harsh to say, Inzaghi, what are you doing selecting Anderson over Nani when he's had two poor games, because this was only his second. So I think the next game, if he was starting Anderson, then maybe you have an argument, but I don't think you can really criticise him for giving it another go tonight, particularly because it was a chance to see him playing with Immobile, which was a partnership that, at least in pre-season, looked very promising.
Yeah, and I think if you play Nani, you have to play him more closer to Immobile, not behind him like Luis Alberto and Felipe Anderson. He's more a second striker than a regista, let's call it like that. The other thing, I don't know if you had the same thoughts, when Cáceres went down against Cutrone and was holding his shoulder, I was, oh my, let's hope it's not a bad injury, because he was playing so well. And we know that how often Cáceres gets injured. I thought this is the typical Lazio thing, that he plays the first match he's playing well and then he's injured and gone for the season.
It's kind of, it reminds me of Santiago Gentileschi, who I think had about 3 games, and everyone thought, oh, here we go, we finally got a good defender, and then he goes and gets injured and then comes back and turns out to not be a particularly good defender either. Yeah, I think it was the same with Ciro Immobile in the first half when he got elbowed in the face by Panucci. I didn't see the elbow to begin with, and I just saw him rolling around on the ground, and I thought, oh my God, no. But thankfully, he's fine.
I don't want to talk about referees, but that was a red card all the time. I mean, it's impossible not to give it. But again, Lazio wasn't lucky with the referee. Kilkito Anderson was absolutely terrible tonight. How many chances has he had, and how many times does he disappoint? He should definitely now be the third choice after Alberto Nani. He doesn't look like he cares. Okay, there's the Felipe Anderson appreciation group here. And Paul...
Again,
yeah, we have Paul McGuinness that agree, 100% agree. Looks like he just floats around. So we have a fan club there.
People's memories are a bit short, aren't they? It was 1 week ago tonight that Felipe Anderson scored and assisted in a 3-0 win over Udinese and played very well. I mean, come on. The guy is a talented player. He might have had a couple of bad games, but it's not like he... I'm sorry. I think he's being hard done by here. I get what people say about his attitude and so on, but I don't think Inzaghi should be criticised for putting him in the team, because I don't think his level's that much below what we've seen from anyone else.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the most frustrating thing for me is when he doesn't play that well, he still have that face that, you know, maybe inside he's burning and he's concerned, etc. But his face is like, I really don't care, you know. Why am I here? I should be on the beach in Copacabana and enjoying my life. So I believe that's the most frustrating things about Felipe Anderson. Rami Algendi again, who is the player we signed today from Bayern, and will he play for the first team or youth? So the player is Progon Maloku, and they say he's a striker, even if he's not very tall. He's like 175 centimeters. He was playing with the under-17 of Bayern. He looks really promising. He's considered one of the most interesting talents in Germany. Again, he's original from Albania, but has a German passport. So, and he will be playing with the Primavera, at least at the beginning. I think all this season he will be playing with the Primavera. Primavera that is, I think, struggling. It's like risking the relegation at the moment, because it's not last, but like at 2 points from the last position. So there is the big chance that Lazio get relegated, the Primavera. Do you know something more about the Bayern player?
No, that was pretty authoritarian. Was he not on loan already at Lazio, and then the move was made permanent because he's turned 18? I thought that was the deal. I might be wrong.
Yeah, you could be right.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like we've had a particularly interesting deadline day if this is what we're talking about as the main signing. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously, like you say, if the youth team's struggling as it is, then it's good to be able to be bringing in a bit of fresh blood to try and help out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not been a particularly interesting January for us once again.
Well, we signed Cáceres. That could be the best signing of January. I mean, not only for Lazio, looking what happened for the other teams. And the big disappointment, the big problem, the big disappointment of this January is again that Djordjevic is still with us. We weren't able to sell him. But in the meantime, Perce went away on loan. Oikonomidis went away on loan. Tuncara is away on loan. They say that there's a chance that even Perea is going on loan. Mauricio could be in Brazil or in Turkey, they say. So at least some of the players that was out of the project are gone. Obviously, there are still Rozzi, Vargic, Djordjevic, Mauricio, and Marchetti that are here, but at least some are gone.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the loan deals that were done today, it's kind of hard to imagine that they're going to have too much of an impact on these guys' hopes of getting into the Lazio team, though. You know, it's if you send off Tunkara to Albania for half a season, even if he goes and scores 15 goals, he's not going to come back and suddenly be rated highly enough to get in the Lazio team. I suppose you could say the same about Economidis and Western Sydney, and Persa, I think, has gone back to Croatia, I think. So I think it's good to get players who aren't getting games to be in a chance of actually getting football, but I was a bit disappointed by the kind of level that some of these guys are going to be playing at, in terms of the kind of difference, the gap between that and Serie A football, which is ultimately should be the aim.
Yes, I agree. But don't forget that Felipe Luis comes from Salernitana, where he didn't play even that much. So if you're talented, you show it. And with Oikonomidis, I believe that's the chance to send him back home and maybe make him play a little bit more and find a team for him. I think, after the big success he had in the Primavera, he never really played at that level in the professional football. And if I'm not wrong, he went 1 year to 6 months to Salernitana, 1 year in Germany in second division, and he didn't do great. Another year in Denmark, I think, and again, he didn't do well. So, I think already he played in below average league and didn't do pretty much nothing. So I think Lazio's trying to maybe sell him and bring him home. While Tunkara, I think he has talent. Let's not forget that when he was in Primavera, he was considered better than Keita, but his head probably is worse than Keita. So I think he needs to play and show his talent, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, Inzaghi knows Tunkara well. He had him in the Primavera, so in that case, I think it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think the other thing with Economidis as well is that he's a player who's been in and around the Australia team before, so actually him going back to his home country for the next 6 months is maybe a bit of a smart move, because it might increase his chances of selection for the Australia team for the World Cup. You never know, and if he's in the World Cup squad, then that gives him at least, if Lazio are looking to keep him long term, then at least might help Lazio get a better price for him if he's managing to get into their World Cup squad. So that's one thing. But yeah, Tunkara has been a bit disappointing in terms of his development, and I'm not sure how much Albania is going to help that for him, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Yes, and I was following him since he was in the Primavera, and that is probably one of the biggest disappointment Lazio had in the last 4 or 5 years, with Rozzi, another player that was considered very, very highly when he was in Primavera, but never transformed in a real professional player. So, but with Primavera players, that this can happen. It's not that every time one plays really, really well in the academy, then turns to be a really good player. But of course, the good thing is that the club invests really little money on them, and so if they don't turn out to be real good players, you didn't lose that much money. If they do, then you can make a lot of money selling them. Other questions? Walid Mohammed, I really believe Nadi should start more often. He wants to play and always give 110%. Anderson need to be dropped. I thought Lucas and Savic played well, but they were exhausted in the second half. I think it's better that we need to win in Rome. Only one way. Yeah, we already talked about Nani and Anderson. Milinkovic Savic, I didn't like him today. I don't know if he was tired, but he made a couple of important mistakes, and I think he had at least 2 or 3 times the ball to score and didn't. So that's one of the biggest. He's the type of player who when he has the chance, he scores. He never misses. He's always on target when it's the time to close the match. Today he wasn't. So.
Yeah, I thought Lucas was really good in the first half. Mentioned there that his performance maybe dropped off a bit in the second, but I thought he was brilliant in the first half. Making a lot of interceptions and got on the end of, or very nearly got on the end of a Lukaku cross as well to score. So yeah, still good to see him still making those forward runs as well. But yeah, I think Nani, by this point, I think that's a good point. He does deserve more starts because he's so rare. He's had so few minutes really still for Lazio. Yeah. Tonight I've not agreed with all the criticism of Anderson, but I do agree with the idea of Nani being able to play more because he's really not had too many opportunities. But yeah, it's one of these periods really where we've got so many games coming up that I'm sure that we'll be able to see both of them. I think the one thing I would like to see would be a repeat of putting the two of them together to see if we can actually try and develop that combination a little bit more, because I think against Udinese in the second half we did see something there that was quite promising. May or may not work in the long term, but I think it's quite an interesting idea. So I would quite like to see the two of them together again.
Yeah, and it's true that he didn't play that much, but it was even true that he got injured often. He was injured, then he had to find his form, and then he got injured again. So one of the reasons why Nani didn't play that much is that. And let's not forget that Caicedo didn't play today, and he's another option. So, and I believe he's going to have some playtime too. So, it's not going to be easy, as you were saying at the beginning. It's not easy for Inzaghi to manage and give the right time to everybody, and at the same time, don't elaborate too much. Don't think, okay, Caicedo played only 10 minutes today, so he has to play 50 next Sunday. Then Nani, because it's not how it works. He has to put always the players that are more in good shape to give Lazio every time the best chance to win. So that's not very easy. And Lucas Leiva, I thought at a certain time he dominated. He was, on the other side there was Biglia, and Biglia play again really, really bad today. I think in the first half he completely missed all the passes. He didn't get one right. So, it was like, that's not Biglia, that's another player. Must be. He was terrible. And on the other side, Lucas Leiva was playing like other 3 players. He was recovering the ball, making assists, going and score. It was terrific. So, and again, the question is, in the second half he was tired. Why didn't we take him off and bring in Murcia? We'll never know.
We'll never know. Well, it's not the first time we've questioned Inzaghi's substitutions, I suppose. It's something that we've done a fair bit, actually, but I suppose in games like tonight where the scores are level and it's the first leg of 2 legs in a cup semi-final, then it's perhaps I don't know. Just the idea of bringing on Lulic. I mean, I thought Lulic would have started. But if he's not going to start, then I didn't really see the benefit of bringing him off the bench for the last 7 minutes or whatever it was. Having said that, it was actually quite interesting to see Lulic being played on the right-hand side, because he is obviously a right-footed player who tends to play on the left, and we haven't seen an awful lot of him on the right. So I wonder if that's something we're going to see more of, or if it's just what Inzaghi thought he was going to do tonight.
Yeah, you brought up a valid point, which is exceptional. Lulic is always one of the choices Inzaghi picks from the bench. And again, Lulic is one of the players who played more, I thought in the last minutes of Milan-Lazio, putting Murcia, putting someone who didn't play that much, Greco, I don't know who was on the bench. Instead, he's always picking Lulic. If Lulic is not playing, you know already that one of the three subs is going to be Senad Lulic. And I don't know why. I mean, give him a match to relax instead of putting him in. He played well when he came in, but again, he's going to play Monday, I think, especially after Basta and Lukaku performance. So why don't give a chance to another player?
Yeah, and I remember you saying back in August when we won the Super Coppa. Obviously, we were on a high after that, and one of the points you made was saying how many coaches out there with the score where it was and the game where it was, how many coaches would have gone to a 21-year-old on the bench to come on and then win the match for you. And at the time, Inzaghi deserved a lot of praise for that substitution and the fact that he'd been brave enough to go for an energetic young player rather than an old, experienced guy. But we haven't really seen much of that kind of bravery or, the kind of unpredictable side of his decisions since then. It tends to be pretty predictable what he's going to do. For the first part of the season, it was changing the fullbacks after an hour and then changing the striker a bit later on. And since then, it's like you say, he tends to be the same guys he goes to on the bench.
Yeah.
And he's been, don't get me wrong, he's been superbly flexible tactically this season. And I think that's been one of the secrets to Lazio's success. But in terms of selection, I don't think he's kind of dipped into his bench as far as maybe he should have been.
And in the recent match, he always made the same subs, taking off the two strikers and then Lulic if he's not playing. So, I mean, it's not this the reason why Lazio didn't win today, but it's one of the reasons why Murcia didn't play, because he's not in those three positions. So that's the reason why he's not playing that much, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, clearly, there's you would have thought that if Inzaghi had no space for him and didn't want anything to do with him in the squad anymore, then they would have at least mentioned him going out somewhere on loan at least this month. But there hasn't been any real serious talk about Murcia leaving the club at all, which suggests that there's, within the club, there's no desire to see that happen. So I don't know if it's just something that will take more time, as I mean, I've said it before, it's an obvious thing to say, but Inzaghi's the one who sees them on the training ground every day, so he'll have a much better idea than we do of how Murcia's fitting into that system, and perhaps he just doesn't trust him in it yet and needs a bit more time.
Yeah, or maybe he needs to find the right position for Murcia. By the way, there are quotes of Iglitare before the match. He said, we are trying to find a solution for Mauricio, Djordjevic and Marchetti. In other countries, the transfer market doesn't close tonight. So there is this option. I don't see Marchetti going abroad, but maybe Mauricio Djordjevic, especially Mauricio that is still in Brazil. I can see him staying there.
Yeah, I saw some links with South America, and I think the Chinese market is still open as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully, a Chinese club comes and bids 50 million euros for Djordjevic. That would be great. Unfortunately, I think they have to pay 100% tax now, the Chinese clubs, so maybe that's less likely to happen than it
Yeah,
used to be.
I
But
don't see it
you know,
happening, unfortunately. But we'll see. But we'll see. It's. I think it's good that we sent those youngsters on loan and play a little bit. But yeah, there are rumors that Marchetti would stay with Lazio and then at the end of the summer would leave and because his contract expire. I still believe it's a shame how things finish. I thought he could be at least the goalkeeper behind Strakosha instead of Vargic, but I don't know. There's something that we don't know that happened there.
yeah, there's definitely something strange about the whole situation, and I hope he leaves when he does end up leaving with people remembering from when he was at his best as well, because I think he's become someone that people don't seem to rate so much among Lazio fans anymore, just because he's become a bit of a forgotten man. But when he first arrived at the club, particularly, he was absolutely brilliant, and one of the best pieces of transfer business I think Iglesias pulled off actually was taking him from Cagliari after he'd not played for a year. Yeah. And got him on the cheap, and he got an international class goalkeeper, and he's had some seriously impressive games for Lazio. So yeah, it's a shame that it's ending up this way, but at least in Strakosha we've got a really talented young guy to come in and replace him. So it's not like it's not like we're ending up with a 43-year-old Marco Bellotta again.
Yeah, I agree. The first season at Lazio, Marchetti was terrific. I remember the match against Napoli at San Paolo. He was like Superman, and even against Juventus, he played a couple of matches really well. And then he had ups and downs after that season, unfortunately. But yeah, the problem is people forgot what Felipe Anderson did 1 week ago. Imagine if fans will remember what Marchetti did 4 years ago. So that could be a little bit of a problem. But still, it's a shame he's leaving like that. But let's talk a little bit of transfer market. What's your judgment on Lazio winter transfer market?
Well, there's not an awful lot to judge. I think going into it, I would have liked to see a striker come in. But having said that, Inzaghi's made the point before that basically getting Anderson and Nani fully fit is basically like getting some January signings in, and that point has kind of been made during the month. I think the fact that we're now talking about the way they're rotating these 4 guys and 5 guys with Caicedo now shows that we do, with everyone back fully fit, have good options up front. So I'm not as disappointed about that as I thought I would have been at the start of the month in terms of having a backup to Ciro, because this month as well we've had Ciro out injured and still managed to do okay without him. So in terms of incoming players, Caceres coming in seems to be a great piece of business, as we've said before, and I don't think there's anything else obvious in the squad that needed repairing. Perhaps, having mentioned Marchetti, a number 2 goalkeeper, but hopefully Strakosha can stay fit. So yeah, it's not been the most exciting in terms of players coming in, but I'm confident that the one signing we've made is a good one, and that's saying something. That's pretty positive compared to how some Januaries have gone before.
Yes, I agree. And Caceres is filling probably one of the biggest gap this team had. I thought that the other one is someone who could be playing instead of Leiva in that position, because I still think there isn't a Vice Immobile in this team, and Caicedo is not that type of player. But Inzaghi can rearrange the team to make Nani or Felipe Anderson or Caicedo perform when Immobile is not there. So, Cáceres has experience. He already proved he can play at top level in Serie A, so that's really good. And the most important thing for me is that the other teams didn't do nothing. We usually see Lazio doing one or two signings, and Inter buying a whole new team, or Roma buying 3-4 very good players and things like that. Napoli, instead, this winter didn't happen. There was rumors that Napoli could buy 3-4 players, that no one came. Inter, again, it looks like Pastore was close, and then in the end they didn't do nothing. AC Milan didn't sign any player. So, Lazio's winter transfer market wasn't amazing, but compared to the other teams, for the first time it was good, I would say, in average with the others, if not better. So that's, I think, it's the biggest difference.
Yeah, I mean, not an awful lot has changed, and given the way that things have been going, that has to be a good thing for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is true. In terms of incomings, I think in terms of outgoings, I'm not going to repeat everything we've just said, but I think in January, like last summer, you are looking at an opportunity to try and get rid of some of these guys who clearly don't have a future at the club. So it's a bit disappointing for them to still be here. But it must be a hard sell sometimes with Mauricio and Djordjevic. Pereira as well, I think it's quite clear he doesn't have a future at the club. Apparently, reports today saying that Lazio were looking for between €1 million and €1.5 million for him, but that was considered too much from the clubs who were looking at him. So, yeah, it's still quite a big squad, and needs to be trimmed down in the summer because we've not managed to this month.
Yeah, I was thinking, this is the first winter transfer market where no facts get broken, no last-second deal doesn't go through for Lazio. I don't know, I feel a little bit shocked.
It's a bit boring, isn't it?
No, it's the first time that never happens to Lazio. Every season, there's Yilmaz that didn't come up for the last second, or the fax broken, the translator didn't translate the document of Felipe Anderson and things like that. So it's good.
I think it's the first January in about 4 years that we haven't been linked with Burak Yilmaz, isn't it?
I think he's still playing, right?
I have absolutely no idea. I didn't have to look him up this month for a change.
Yeah. Well, we know everything about him. But yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is that Lazio did sign a player who was useful and was playing well, and the other teams didn't do anything special. So that's a big change for us. And now Monday there is Lazio-Genoa, another important match.
Yeah, and without, obviously, a couple of players through suspension, no Milinkovic-Savic. I think Milinkovic-Savic has played a lot of games as well, so it might hopefully be a bit of a blessing in disguise that he's suspended for a match, so he actually gets to rest a bit. And Lulic isn't the biggest loss, I don't think. Lukaku was kind of hot and cold tonight, but I think it's fine to have him starting another game. So, yeah, I mean, the interesting question, I suppose, for this game is that with Milinkovic-Savic coming out to the midfield, I would have expected, in terms of Inzaghi's selection so far, that what he would have done is put Lulic into that midfield three instead. But now that he doesn't have Lulic as an option to go into there, it kind of has to be Morja. I mean, I know we've said this before and he's still not played, but I really expect Morja has to play this weekend because, I mean, it's Monday, isn't it, the next game?
Yep.
But without Milinkovic-Savic or Lulic available, it kind of has to be Lucas, Parolo, Moja for me. Unless he plays Alberto.
Yes, I was going to say that. Well, do the show on your own if you want. If you're asking questions and replying to them, then okay, I won't talk anymore.
I'm great conversation. That's it.
I'm sorry. I'm listening. Go on.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's the chance. I was thinking, especially seeing how Nani performed today. There's the option that Luis Alberto play instead of Milinkovic-Savic with Nani behind Immobile. That could be an option, but it would make sense. But I believe if Murcia doesn't start next Monday, I think he's not going to be very happy. And I think he deserves every time he plays, he gives everything. So, I don't see a reason or a sort of punishment for not starting Murcia on Monday.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting to see his selection when it comes to the Europa League games, because I think the Europa League is a competition to take seriously, but because it's the last 32, so it's not the kind of very, very big rounds yet, and because we're playing Steaua Bucharest, who are a good team but not a huge team, I wonder if Inzaghi will rotate the team quite a lot for those games as well. So yeah, I mean, a couple of opportunities, I suppose, coming up in the next month to really test whether Murcia is going to get any sort of action or not.
Yeah, I think Inzaghi has to rotate a little bit at least in every match the team, because I think till March Lazio is going to play every 3 days, so you have to think about this and rotate a little bit more the team, and I hope that Murcia gets more play time thanks to this, and even I would be happy if Felipe Luis play a little bit more, because today he was really, really good, and I think he deserves another chances.
Yeah, definitely, especially on the back of tonight's performance. I think I do like the idea of seeing more of Alberto in that deeper position. I'm not convinced he's as effective there, but he's just not played there as much. But I don't think it's his natural position.
No. I agree with you.
Yeah,
he has talent, so he can play in different position, and he's still a player that even if he's not a Lucas Leiva, he still fights for the ball, etc. But I don't think he's that type of player. So he needs to be more near the box to be more dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I mean, it's a busy month coming up.
Yep. Are you available?
I should be. I've managed to avoid being signed up by any other podcast during the January transfer window. So you're lucky. You've got me for the rest of the season.
Cool. Good. So I think we can wrap it up here. If you don't have any other questions you want to answer, you do.
I'm sure I'll think of more for next Monday.
Okay. So as usual, guys, thanks for listening. Remember, you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, on Spreaker if you don't have an iPhone, on our YouTube channel, on our social platform, on Facebook, on Twitter, and keep following us. And if you like the show, please rate us and tell your friend. Thank you very much, Alistair.
No worries. See you next time.
Okay, bye.